Okay. So, hi everybody, I'm Michaela. I'm the founder and one of the co-owners of GC Prep, and thank you for coming tonight and for watching. So, the goal of today's webinar is to understand what the actual match stats look like, why someone might match versus not match, and then what we can do for the future. If you do decide to reapply, what does that look like for you, and where are places that we can improve for next year to just improve our odds and have a better outcome. Or for people who did not apply this year and are looking to apply next year, then how can we do that successfully? Okay. So here we go. And if you have any questions, like as we go along, feel free to dump those in the chat and Janice will take care of those as they come along, though we will do a question and answer session at the end. Okay. All righty. There we go. So here's a brief overview. What does it mean to not match? We'll talk about some unfilled seats that the match didn't quite take care of. Reasons why someone didn't match. What can you do now? Where to get help? And then, of course, we'll talk about GC Prep coaching services and if they are effective. Spoiler alert, they are. And then some next steps. Okay. And I forgot to take that little bit off. So there is no raffle this year. I apologize. That's from last year. Okay, so what does not matching mean? So big picture, right? We had 1,690 people registered for the match. Okay. It doesn't necessarily tell us how many of those decided to move forward at that point, and like if they still continued to apply or not. But we do know that 1,043 people participated in the match, which means that they were interviewed at least one school. Okay. And then there were 669 seats filled by the match algorithm itself, and that turns out to be about 39.6% of people who registered for the match. Okay. Now there were some additional seats that didn't get filled by the match. We'll talk about those in a moment. But basically, what not matching means is that you're not going to start a GC program this fall. Okay. That's all it means. It does not mean that you're a failure. It does not mean that you didn't try hard enough. It does not mean that they hated you in interviews. It does not mean that you will never become a genetic counselor, okay? Or that you don't have what it takes. And it doesn't mean that you should give up, okay? So there are some people for whom, you know, they will determine that genetic counseling is not right for them and decide not to reapply. And if that is you, that is okay, right? Like we can change the course or direction of our career trajectories or our lives. That's completely fine. My goal for you is if that is a decision that you make, to not make that decision in a feeling of defeat, right? I don't want you to feel like you give up because you have no other options, right? If we decide to go down a different path and not pursue genetic counseling anymore, we want to make that decision from a place of like confidence, of acceptance, of enthusiasm for what we're moving towards, not a place of just like total emotional defeat, right? That's not going to be healthy for us moving forward. So every person at this point who did not match will need to make this decision. Am I moving forward? Am I not moving forward to apply again? Do I need to take a gap year? And we'll talk about some of those things. But there's no failure if you decide not to apply again. And if you do decide to apply again, then we'll talk about how to really put the pedal to the metal to make sure that we have a better outcome. Okay. Okay. So the biggest thing in this time period is emotional resilience and balancing that disappointment and anxiety that we can have when we feel rejection, right? Rejection is a very difficult emotion for humans to deal with, and it can feel really massive and like there's no future for us, which of course is not true, right? But it feels that way. And so what is healthy is to have a period of disappointment or uncertainty. And then, we sit with that for a while and then moving into a period of reaffirmation of your own personal goals and of your self-worth, even in this state of not matching. And then we want to learn from our failures and then take actionable steps to move forward. Okay. So lots of people have not matched the first time and then been successful reapplicants on subsequent times. Okay. And for other people, this whole process and learning about themselves in the process has showed them where their skills are and where their interests are, and they might choose a different career path. Again, those are both totally healthy choices moving forward. Okay. What we don't want, what isn't healthy for unsuccessful applicants, is to have that period of disappointment get so prolonged that it ends up leading to like wallowing and like a downward spiral into hopelessness, and uncontrolled anxiety and like really destruction of confidence. Like we don't want that. Okay. So it's totally reasonable to feel those things. We just need to keep them in their lane. Keep in mind that those are temporary feelings and then help work ourselves through those and upwards so we can progress. Okay. People who get stuck in those like unhealthy patterns of processing usually have poor outcomes the next time they apply as well. Okay. There is an emotional resilience that is needed to be able to be successful in applying to grad school, but also emotional resilience needed to like get through grad school and to be a genetic counselor. So we need to start those patterns. If we haven't already, we need to start them now. And we just want to make sure that we're not trying to move on with our lives in defeat. We want to move forward with confidence. Okay. If you do feel like you are stuck in this negative headspace, professional help, therapy is wonderful. Okay. So I would strongly recommend that. Like GC Prep can help with a lot of the logistical things, and we can help with some of the emotional management there, but we're not therapists, right? And so if you feel like you're really stuck in this negative place after match day, then I strongly encourage you to get professional help there, because we don't want to be stuck there. That's not a good place for anybody. Okay. Okay. There are some additional opportunities. Okay. 18 seats at 6 programs were not filled by the match, and they don't necessarily tell us what programs they are, but through the grapevine, we've heard about 3 of them: Long Island University, Boise State, and Alabama. There are at least 3 others. Janice, have you heard anything about the other 3? No. Yeah,
Sorry, no.
they don't tell us. Not just us, but they don't advertise it on the National Mass Service does not advertise it on their website. So we don't necessarily know. Some of those programs will still be wanting to fill their seats, right? So filled seats equals money for the universities, and so they are motivated to fill them. And so a lot of these schools will still participate in a post-match process where you can still apply for those unfilled seats and go through that application process, very similar to the regular application process, to try to fill those seats. Now, I will give just a little bit of a disclaimer. Um, we had a variety of unfilled seats last year as well. And the only school that I know of that was on the list this year and last year is Long Island University. And we do know that they have an investigation going on with them from the like American Council of Genetic Counselors, the body that oversees um,
Accreditation Council for
accreditation
Genetic
counseling.
Counseling.
There you go, accreditation counseling. So um, if you are interested in that program, just proceed with caution, right? Just be aware as they're interviewing you and you were interviewing them, if it's somewhere that you think you'd feel comfortable. But we don't totally know what's going on over there. Okay. Um, with these unfilled seats, there's no more match process. It's just people apply, they get like in all the normal ways with writing their papers and things like that. Then they're interviewed, and then a school will make a decision and either extend um, a seat offer or not, right? So there's no more match email going on with these. Okay. If you are interested in these seats, do this immediately. If you have not already done so, you might have to snoop around to find what schools have open seats. But yeah, do that immediately if that's something that you are interested in, to see if you can still attend in the fall. Okay. Okay, so some reasons for not matching. There are a couple. So the first reason is sometimes people just need more competitive experiences. Sometimes it's better grades, and we did see in general a higher GPA of people who matched than those who were unmatched. For some people, it's genetic counseling exposure, whether that is being able to shadow, even though it can be really hard to get shadowing appointments. So if you can't get shadowing appointments, then informational interviews can be helpful to expand your knowledge of the field of genetic counseling. Okay. We have um, 11 or 12 videos that are around an hour long that are all counselor interviews on our website that are available. And those can go on a CV as observed interviews, right? Just so you can see how people have, processed their whole career. They're just at different states of their career, different specialties within the field, and giving insights on what that meant to them and the kind of things that they were involved in. Okay. Um, Sometimes the amount of crisis or counseling experience someone has is not either sufficient, maybe you haven't done it for long enough, or maybe sometimes people just can't describe what it meant to them. And that is the big thing. Like, they do want you to have it, but more important than having like 200 hours of crisis work is it's better to have 30 hours and really being able to describe how it was meaningful to you and how it changed your perspective and what you learned and why it is important. That is far more um, appealing to a school than just having a bunch of hours, but not really being able to describe why that experience was valuable to you in some way. Okay. Same thing with advocacy or volunteer experience. Again, it's not so much the volume as it is the insight that you have on those things. So, of course, the more time you spend there, the more experiences you're going to have and the more you're going to have to talk about. But we really want to make sure that you understand why those experiences were valuable. Okay. Sometimes people are missing relevant coursework or prerequisites. Some programs require research experience. Not everybody has that. Um, and then sometimes people just lack the ability to describe how their particular perspective is unique, right? Or the experiences that have led them to their particular worldview. And so some of that is just a communication issue, right? Where we need to hone in on how we describe these things and how we, um, explain where we are and where we want to go. And that's something that coaching can help with. Okay. Other reasons are, again, that communication. If you're unable to articulate either verbally or in writing why genetic counseling is the field for you, because it's not just I love genetics and it's not just I want to help people. We have to be more specific about those things because there's lots of way to help people that are not genetic counseling and there's lots of jobs within the field of genetics. So why this particular crossroads? Okay. Um, Sometimes people don't really understand, like, well, what does a genetic counselor do, or understand the real role that is carved out for a genetic counselor or how to carve one out. Um, Often we see the analysis of experiences that an applicant has had is quite surface level in the way that it's being described. And programs are really looking for deeper insight. And so being able to figure out not just what you did, but why you did it. Like, what was the importance of that? And then being able to analyze, well, was it effective or not? Did it do what I was hoping it to do? Did I really help someone, good or bad? Those deeper analyses are really what we're looking for. And often, what Janice and I see kind of on the document review end, kind of at the beginning of the application cycle, is just not not deep enough insight to really make a compelling argument. And that is not an uncommon problem, right? The prompts are so vague that there are so many ways you can write to the prompt without really saying anything um, like very deep, and it can be really confusing on how to do that well and appropriately on your own. Okay? Some people lack confidence, and some people are very arrogant, right? So we've seen kind of both the spectrum of those things. And really what we're looking for is we want confidence. Confidence is just believing in yourself and your teachability, and that you have the tools to be able to absorb all of the information and be successful. Arrogance is saying like, I'm better than the other people because of XYZ, right? So we want confidence without arrogance. Okay. So again, not everybody is going to need all of these things, right? These reasons don't apply to every applicant who didn't match. These are just some possible reasons. Okay. Other things, sometimes letters of recommendations are lukewarm, right? So sometimes a writer will agree to write one, but then it's just nothing specific enough to be helpful to you. So we need to make sure that we have people that are really enthusiastically recommending you. There are some people who are interested in becoming a genetic counselor because, yeah, sounds pretty good. That sounds like a good place to be, but it's not like their ride or die profession. And so among other applicants who are on like the it's GC ride or die, they look like they lack passion. Okay. And I will say, with the state of the job market and just the profession in general, we need passionate people. And if this is just something that's kind of like a casual interest, there could be safer options, right, out there. Okay. But if GC is something that you're really passionate about, then it will show through in your paper and your interview, because that is something that is definitely needed. Okay. Some people just have personalities that are not a wonderful fit for genetic counseling. Um, there can be a wide spectrum of personalities that can be involved in the field, but there are just some that are more suited to other related fields rather than the field of genetic counseling. Like if you hate talking to other people, if you just want to show up at work and do your job and then go home and not have to interact with a bunch of other people, genetic counseling probably not for you, right? So sometimes there needs to be some degree of reflection by an applicant, like, is this a field where I can have kind of the work-life balance that I want and the type of interactions with other people that I am looking for on a day-to-day basis? Okay. So what do we do? What do we do now? Okay. First, self-care. We talked about that one. We want you to realign with yourself and give yourself grace, and not have your entire feeling of self-worth be hinged on whether you matched or not, right? Because that was a moment in time, and you as a person are so much bigger and more important than matching or not, right? So we need to refocus on that. Next, we need to decide if you're reapplying, to either to unfilled seats or if you're doing the next cycle. And if there was anything that you would change about your application, if you want to apply to the same schools, if you want to apply to different schools, what is that going to look like? Where you think you struggled the most and where you think you want help for the next time. Okay. You can ask for feedback from programs where you applied. Sometimes people do this right after match day. You probably won't get an answer if you did that right after match day. I would recommend doing it mid-June. Janice, is that a better time?
I think that's probably different for everybody. I can tell you every year after match day, within, 12 hours to 4 months, I would have probably 30 or 40 people emailing me saying, what could I have maybe done better? And so the people on our admissions committee, some of them, not all of them. I mean, I really tried to get them to put a lot of information in our notes section in our spreadsheet
Mhm.
so that if somebody emailed me and said, what could I have done differently? I mean, we interviewed 60 people. I wasn't going to remember which one I was talking to.
Yeah.
I mean, I might a little bit, but I'm certainly not going to remember the details. So I would go back to the essay committee, the letters of recommendation
Mhm.
committee, the transcript committee, and the interview committee, or that's not right, but whatever it was, and look at all the notes in there to find out what was done really well. And I would always start my email with, these are the things that we really liked about you, and these are the places where you might need a little bit more practice or a little bit more detail, or you
Adjustment.
can't really change your transcript, but if you have a few C's, maybe you retake those classes,
Mhm.
particularly if they're genetics classes. So I would give recommendations like that, and
Yeah.
how many people follow them, I don't know.
Yeah. So some programs just won't respond, unfortunately. I personally think that's a little rude. But some just won't. But others want to respond, but right after match day can just be sticky because everybody's doing graduation around this time. So it can be really busy. So in June, mid-June or so, that's when programs are going to have a little bit more bandwidth to respond to emails. So if you're planning to reach out, especially to programs that you're still very interested in, I would send those either for the first time or again in mid-June. Okay.
Well, and if you reached out to the program director, say, and you don't hear back, yes, absolutely, you can poke them again, but you can also reach out to admissions,
Yeah.
because they may have the information, they may have part of the information, or they may say, let me ask for you.
Yeah.
I'll get it and I'll give it to you. It's
There
worth
you go.
trying that route too.
Yep. It's worth trying. And we've seen a variety of success in that way. Sometimes people will do this and they'll get different feedback from different schools. And that's because each school is looking for something a little bit different. And so, I've known genetic counselors who got wildly different feedback from like 3 or 4 different schools. And so they couldn't do all of those things. So they just picked the school that they really wanted to go to and they focused on improving based on their feedback. Now, if you're getting like repeated feedback from with the same topics from multiple schools, then okay, well, that's definitely an area of weakness or where there's an opportunity for me to improve. Okay. Okay. So, another thing you can do is you still want to beef up your CV experiences. If you are planning to apply next year, you don't want to have all of your experiences just end either at the beginning of 2026 or the end of 2025 when you applied last time. They want to see that you're still engaged with activities related to the field of genetic counseling, whether that is shadowing or informational interviews or webinars or conferences or like uh, educational talks at your institution, wherever you are, things like that. You want to keep doing those so that they can see there is steady interest and engagement all along this course. Okay. And then we want to connect the dots. Okay, so we want to evaluate on what your experiences were with this last application cycle. Where did you feel the most uncertainty? Where did you feel the weakness? Um, or the most off balance in this process? Where do you think you need improvements? Um, we also want to see the experiences that you've had and that you're still having. How do they relate to genetic counseling, even if they're not medical, right? Because experiences that you have, they don't have to be anything about genetics or even biology or medicine at all. And they can still relate if you're using the same skills that you would need as a genetic counselor. Okay. So we want to make sure we're connecting the dots between all of the experiences that you're having and your advocacy work and your shadowing and your crisis work and pulling out the important parts that are relevant for genetic counseling, psychosocial skills, interacting with people, connecting with people, building rapport, those type of things are highly valuable. And of course, build your confidence. So totally separate from just your strength as an applicant, we want you to reinvest in yourself as a person and do whatever you need to do to build up that confidence in yourself and belief that you will be successful and that you have something valuable to contribute, whether it's in the field of genetic counseling or somewhere else. Okay. And then, of course, set goals, be proactive, right? Starting earlier is typically the pattern that we've seen for successful applicants. The earlier they start getting help, the more likely they are to match. Okay. Alrighty. So where do you get help? Here's a couple options that are not through GC Prep. So Toastmasters has local chapters, and sometimes University Career Services have interviewing skills. So you can look into that. If you have certain grades that you think are maybe pulling down your overall GPA, then you can retake some prerequisites for a higher grade online. There are a variety of like 1 year online masters in medical genetics and genomics. They're not genetic counseling degrees, but they really prepare you for like the hard science there. And so for people who have GPAs that are um, on the struggle bus, like let's say they were just kind of struggling in college to like find their passion and they didn't really find what they were good at and excited about and getting good grades in until later. And so overall GPA is just a little less impressive than they would want it to be. Sometimes taking a year off to do like an online abbreviated master's like that can really provide the type of grades that look much more impressive. Okay. There's also a professional development certificate in genetics and genomics that's online. So just kind of depends on what you're looking for and what you think your GPA needs, if anything, but there are some options. For confidence therapy or life coaching, highly recommended. And then for GC exposure, really be scoping out on social media. So there's usually a GC career fair that's through NSGC, I believe. Also, there's an NSGC small or special interest group for applicants. The program open houses, of course, but listening to podcasts, following the hashtag GC chat, just getting involved in LinkedIn, online webinars, internships, advocacy organizations. There is like an immersive at Color Genetics, which is a laboratory that can be really helpful to provide shadowing and exposure, and it's all remote. Okay. It does not have any coaching, but it is exposure.
I think that's something you have to apply to and be accepted to,
I
though.
think so. Yeah, I
Yeah,
think
I don't
so.
think it's something you can just decide to
It's not just
do.
like willy-nilly, but it's there and it's available to look into. I'm not sure
Yeah.
how many spots they have there, but I think there is like a set amount of people that they take. Yeah. So, GC Prep resources, we have workshops. They're usually small groups hosted by our genetic counselors or program directors on a variety of topics, kind of as needed. We've been doing fewer of those, but we're always like open to do some. And usually we have like a couple in each semester block on a topic for that moment of application, whether it is writing your statement of purpose or getting your CV ready, things like that. We have webinars like this one. There will be one about matching, like this one. We usually have one early in the year about interviewing. There's usually one about school selection, general orientation to the whole application process, and then about writing your statement of purpose. Okay. We also have a program map on our website, which I highly recommend as you pick schools, because previously everybody's first like filter on searching schools was just location. And for a lot of people, location doesn't matter so much. It's like the other aspects of the program, like how much does it cost and how big is the cohort and are do I need a car and all of these other features. And so the program map allows you to filter programs by what you're looking for. And so you might find schools that you hadn't considered applying to in the past, but highly recommend that. It is free. Okay. And then we have educational videos. It's about 24 hours worth of educational videos. Again, about half of those are interviews with counselors that you can add to your CV. They are free to underrepresented applicants by completing our demographic survey. If you're not in an underrepresented group, then they are not free, but they are available. Okay. And there are discounts for others if you have the DNA Today promo code. Okay. All right. As far as like actual coaching help through GC Prep, we do have group coaching. Application boot camp is something that we do usually twice over the summer. Um, it's a 5-week intensive with usually up to 8 applicants and a coach. And it really helps to build your CV because we are um, going through each step of the process to help you pick schools that are appropriate, help you find your values to know how you want to aim your paper and working on your CV and your application essay. And then we're also coordinating interviews with the applicants to interview patients and genetic counselors. So that can be really helpful. We haven't scheduled that yet, but that is something that's going to be on the horizon. So be on the lookout through our social media and our emails for information there. We also have one-on-one coaching, so document reviews and mock interviews, either with a regular genetic counselor or one of our genetic counselors who have been a program director or assistant program director, if that is someone you want to help you with your essay. Okay. There are also packages of those, like if you want multiple document review sessions or mock interviews, then they come in packages that are discounted. And then, of course, long-term mentorship. So sometimes people, I do want help with my essay, I do want help with my CV, but I feel like I don't really know how to be confident in this whole situation. And so they want like regular coaching by a genetic counselor and a life coach, right? Or a genetic counselor who is a life coach as well. And she's going to be bringing additional tools, value finding exercises, confidence building exercises. And so it's really that mentorship is for whatever you need to be successful. And it can be really helpful to have someone kind of be your cheerleader through this whole process. Or if you feel like you just need like a rant session, you can use one of your sessions to just rant about things. It's less focused in its content than, say, a document review. Okay. All right. So, how did we do as GC Prep? Pretty well. Um, So the blue bars are the national numbers, and the red is for people who had coaching through GC Prep. Okay. So there's a couple of things to know here. So overall, right, nationally, about 39.6% of people matched. And if we look overall of people who had at least one coaching session with GC Prep, it was 75.6%. So almost double. However, that is not the most ideal measure because some of the people who came to GC Prep only came after they already were extended interview offers. So what we really are interested in is the next two options. Okay. So of everyone that applied nationally, 61.7% of people were interviewed, but of people who had coaching in the fall for their applications with GC Prep, 91.7% of those people got interviews. So a 30% difference in the number of interviews. And also, I would say anecdotally, we had people who had like 7 to 12 interviews this year. There were quite high volumes of interviews. Okay. And then the question becomes, well, of the people who interviewed, how many of those people matched? And nationally, that was 64% of people who were interviewed matched at programs. And of people who used GC Prep, it was 77%. Okay. So certainly increased. I will say the national match rate has been rising over the last few years, and there's a couple of reasons for that. The volume of people who have been applying has been going down since the height of the pandemic, and also the number of programs and seats that all programs are offering has gone up. So that has increased the match rate, but still we're under 40% at this point. Okay. Um, if we were to look at, for this year's data and last year's data, the people who matched on average, they average 3 to 4 document reviews and 2 mock interviews. That seems to be like the special sauce for getting to a place where you have um, like what you need, the skills that you need, the help that you need to match. And we saw lower numbers among people who did not match. Okay. And then there are other intangibles that need to be considered when thinking about any type of coaching, even if it's not with us, right? Like we just encourage everyone to get help, even if it's not with GC Prep, totally fine. Have a great life. Just don't do it alone because it's scary and hard to do stuff alone. And get help. It's going to be better that way. Okay. But regardless of where you get help, um, you're going to be getting additional things, not just the coaching, but you're going to be having someone to help you manage that anxiety, right? To help you know where the guideposts are and if you're getting off track and how to redirect you. There's going to be reduced confusion. There's going to be assistance digging into that insight and pulling up valuable thoughts out of your experiences. And then realistic encouragement, right? So we have our families who encourage us usually, and they're like, you can do it. I believe in you. And that is wonderful. And we love that. However, sometimes it can be hard to believe if that is like actually realistic because they don't know what being a gen counselor is about, right? So having someone who is in the field helping you can provide very realistic encouragement and like realistic feedback about um, where we need to improve and where you're doing a good job. Okay. Okay. Here's just a couple of testimonials. I won't read through all of those, but um, these are reapplicants that have been successful in working with GC Prep to get where they wanted to be. We've helped people who it's their first time, their third time. We had someone who was a fifth time applicant successfully match. Um, and so if this is something that you truly want to do and you have truly reflected on yourself as a person and your personality and what kind of things might have stood in your way before, and you are still dedicated to this, we have experience helping reapplicants, right? No one can guarantee that you will match. No service should be providing you that. So I can't promise that, people who use GC Prep are guaranteed to match because it's just not a reality I can promise. But we can significantly increase odds, right? And we can help with that whole process just so you're not dealing with that extra baggage of that feeling of rejection that will rear its ugly head as you apply again and it will try to like pull down your confidence. We're just going to leave that in the past as we move forward. Okay. Okay, so next steps, if you want to engage more in GC Prep, become a site member to receive our notifications and emails, access the educational videos. Again, those videos are free for applicants of racial minorities, those of low socioeconomic status, and the LGBTQIA plus community. And you can apply with the demographic survey in our financial aid tab. You can contact us to help make a plan. We have free orientation sessions, and they're one-on-ones with me, and we just talk about who you are, where you're coming from, what your background is, and what you're kind of looking for. But there are no obligation sessions. We just kind of have a chat and make some recommendations on how to move forward. But if you decide not to do anything after that, cool. Again, have a nice life, right? So there is no obligation to engage further, but having a free orientation can help make some specific suggestions on how to improve. Okay. I want to watch this, but occasionally there's a volume issue. So Janice, if you can let me know if this is not playing the volume.
Yep. Well, if
Okay.
you should be hearing something, we're not.
Okay. Not hearing that.
Nope.
Nope. Cool. Excellent. Give me one second. All right. We will do this instead. No, why are you doing this? Okay. Okay. Can you hear this?
Nope. Sorry.
Okay. Bummer. It's just not going to work today. We will just move on. And here, I
You
will
want to
drop it in the
post the,
chat.
yeah.
Yeah, I'm just going to drop it in the chat and you guys can
Yeah.
be inspired on your own at a later moment. There you go. Okay, sorry about that, you guys. Okay, so that's pretty much that's where we are. Um, and what we have to offer. So we're happy to take any questions or concerns or, other comments that you guys might have. Um, but there is a way forward, right? And it's really up to you guys on how you want to proceed here, if it's trying again, or if you want to talk about other careers that are near this space, um, then we are happy to help you, find those as well. Okay. Any questions?
I don't have any questions. Well, I have questions, but maybe for like a orientation
Mhm.
session. But um, I just want to say thank you so much for taking the time to talk with us today.
Yeah, you're very welcome. And you
Hope
guys
it's
can always
helpful.
reach me.
Mhm.
The support at gcprepllc.com comes directly to me, and everybody's more than welcome to email me with any questions you might have. And, um, we can help each person make a plan that works for them. Okay. So thank you guys so much and take care. Have a good evening.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome.
Night.
Good night. Go to